Hi, it's KCCK's Culture Crawl. I'm Dennis Green, and my guests today are from Gilded Pear Gallery. The current exhibit. Artist Fred Easker is with us, and the title of the exhibit is Meditation on Moments in the Landscape. Fred, nice to meet you in person finally. Welcome.
Well, thank you. Nice to be here.
I've admired your work for many years and looked at it at the gallery, and I've always enjoyed it. So it's nice to see the hands that make the work. And Lauren Tucci from Gilded Pear, the gallery manager, also with us. Lauren, nice to see you.
Yeah, nice to see you again, Dennis.
So this exhibit has already begun.
Correct.
And continues for several weeks. There will be a reception a little bit later on.
Yep.
In the run. We'll talk about that. Before we talk specifically about the exhibit, Fred, tell me a little bit about your life and work. You've been painting full time for a couple of decades, but you had a large career in that. You managed museums, you did design work. So tell me, was painting always something that was there for you, or did you come to it after you'd done some other stuff?
That's sort of what I ended up doing. And it's actually what has fascinated me the most about different art activities that I've tried. And it's just sort of the one that I have not mastered. And so that's what I keep working towards. And anyway.
And you specialize in the landscape.
I do.
So, do you remember the first attempt you ever made at painting a landscape, where you were and what it was about that particular area that spoke to you?
Well, actually, the process began. I thought I would never paint landscape at one point in my life. And I was taking graduate courses at the University of Iowa, and they were in art history, and I was doing mid-19th century art and studying the Hudson River School painters. And at the same time, I was commuting from Cedar Rapids to Iowa City. And as I studied those artists' work and then was driving through the landscape, I thought, well, I ought to give this a shot. And so I set out a goal for myself that I would just do 10 landscape paintings, just because you never really know from the first one whether it's going to work or not. And now I'm probably over 300, maybe 400. And I just still have lots of paintings to do. So that's kind of, maybe that's not exactly what you asked for. But I would also say that when I decided I was going to do that, to do the landscape, I went back to familiar places that I knew growing up. When I was a kid, I spent a lot of time on a farm that was not my grandparents, but they were kind of like my grandparents, and it was my happy place as a kid. And at the same time, I was doing some personal writing for coursework at the university about just trying to identifying the things that I was interested in. And so we did a lot of personal writing about first art experiences, favorite place, those kinds of things. And so when I started thinking about doing landscape, I went to some of those early places and close to that farm that I stayed on. And then since then, I've branched out.
Were these Iowa locations?
Yes, around Ely, actually.
Oh, okay. So,
And probably one of the first one is now covered with houses.
That's right. So one of the things you did is preserve the way it used to look.
I hope.
Which is also something. So, you landscapes are your primary output, and Midwest theme. Mm-hmm. How far out? And a lot of Iowa themes, a lot of familiar places that will certainly jog the memories of people local people here in our part of eastern Iowa. How far afield have you ventured?
Well, my son lives in Denver, and so I've done a couple paintings from photographs I took out there. I have another one that I will hope to do this next year. And once I had an early client who moved to Maine and invited me and my family out to visit their place, and we were treated very well and had a nice place to stay, and I did a couple of landscapes out from Maine too, but those are sort of the farthest places I've been. I really like to keep it local because the place, it usually takes me a while to figure out what I'm interested in, and I try not to be a tourist about it. And so anyway, and like now I'm mostly focusing on Northeast Iowa, and that's because I was attracted to the place, and we have a place up there, and So I've been there for quite a while. About 15 years we've been going up there. So that's pretty familiar territory, and I still see things that I want to deal with in painting. So
From the outside, people say that all of Iowa looks alike, but those of us who live here know that the geography of the Cedar Rapids area and Point South is far, far different from the northeast corner.
absolutely, everybody from outside the state say it's so flat, but it's it's not really ever flat. I don't think. And just this summer we had the opportunity to go to Lake Okoboji, and it's really kind of interesting because that topography was formed by the glaciers, and the topography of northeast Iowa was not formed by the glaciers. It's called the driftless because the glaciers didn't pass over it. So it's just kind of interesting to see the two things, and those are with the Loess Hills and northeast Iowa, those are the more extreme areas, and then the rest is pretty much. Well, it's actually there's a kind of a generic sense to most of Iowa, I think.
There's a vision that most of us have
Right.
when we think of an Iowa
That's
landscape,
right.
and it's almost kind of variations on a theme.
Well, that's
Maybe.
true. And not too far from Okoboji, it looked just like Cedar Rapids. So it's just how it goes.
So when you do you actually go out and scout locations, or is it more you're driving and you're going to a new place and you look out the corner of your eye and go, oh, there.
Well, it's rarely that. It's mostly that I go out scouting, and some days I'll drive 200 or 300 miles in a day, and I'm always surprised at what it totals up to. But yeah, you make turns and find out you end up places you didn't know existed, and then sometimes I drive all that way and find nothing that I'm interested in, and then other times one day I can maybe find things for 2 or 3 paintings so it's but there are times when I just discover things, and that is probably less often than just going to look.
Okay, now Fred might want to plug his ears because now I'm going to ask Lauren because you have several different landscape artists, and a lot of your shows over the last few times have been landscape artists. So tell me what it is about Fred's work that makes it unique.
Well, there's the very first thing that you think about is the incredible precision in these. They're almost photorealistic. Most people who walk into the gallery think they're photographs until they get a little bit closer, or even have to ask us if they're photographs or not. So that's the first standout. I would say the second standout to me is how lovely everything has been treated. There's so much care that's put into each painting. With some of the new pieces that we have at the gallery now, there are some skies that are incredibly vibrant, rich, and then there's a dreamy quality to some of them in some of the morning scenes, or a late evening scene, and the way that the sky kind of almost blends right into the water. And one that I'm thinking of, I think it was Mississippi Meditation off the top of my head. But then there's also, I'm not originally from the Midwest, and so there's a couple of the scenes too that are really special. I didn't know what a Loess Hill was, or a Paha, and so I kind of had to look these up. So it was also educational and as well as visually lovely. So
The exhibit is entitled Meditations on Moments in Landscape, featuring the work of Fred Easker. Runs until the 2nd of October, and the reception, even though the exhibit is going on, the reception is coming up in a couple of weeks.
Correct. It's September 17th from 5 to 7:30 p.m. It'll be at the gallery. We'll release a little bit more information when we get a little bit closer to that, but we'll have everything listed on our website.
And is that also, are you still posting images of some of the work so that if people want to look at them online, they can do that?
Yep, there are images of everything that's available currently on our website, as well as a couple of images in situ where it's located. And if anybody wants to, just have a walkthrough either with Zoom virtually or even in person, we're willing to do both.
Now, I understand that even though the exhibit is open, it is not quite complete because Fred is still working on one piece of work. So, how far along are you?
I'm probably about a week out, about a week out. It's a painting I wanted to do, and thought the timing would be tight, and it's a really complicated painting, and anyway, it's taking me a little bit longer, and I have a lot of time in it, and that's not the important thing. It's just that I think it'll be done by Monday now. I was saying Friday before, but working today, I thought it was probably Monday.
Okay.
Because sometimes I just need to have them sit for a little bit.
Sure.
And just to sort of see, whether they're really done or not. And the last time I did a show at the gallery, there was one painting I took home after it had been on there for a while and spent quite a bit of time revising it. So, so anyway.
So sometimes paintings aren't done until they're done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. That's right.
Well, and the one you're working on is pretty big.
Yeah, it's being 18 by 90 inches.
Wow.
So it's a pretty big one.
The show is Meditations on Moments in Landscape with Fred Easker. Fred, I've enjoyed looking at your work for so long. It's so great to meet you in person. Thanks, and I'm looking forward to seeing the exhibit.
Okay, great. Thanks.
And Lauren, thank you as always for being
Thanks.
here. If people want more information, you mentioned everything's up on the website, and that is?
GildedPearGallery.com, and it's on the homepage. So go check it out.
Thanks very much. You can hear the Culture Crawl live on the radio many weekdays at 10:20, or download the podcast, watch or listen on your own schedule at kcck.org/culture, or however you get your podcasts. I'm Dennis Green, and I'll talk to you later.